Hey guys, and welcome back to Tech Addicts. Welcome to Season 1, Episode 3 of Tech Addicts. I'm Sam, your host, along with my co-host, Mr. Rawad. How are you doing, Rawad?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Excited to get the show on the road, man.
Yeah, man. You know, I got one of these messages to my Gmail.
Oh yeah, Gmail, the spam messages.
You got that one as well?
It happened to a friend of mine, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a message. It was like, oh, ABC Shark Tank, biggest deal. Well, it's like I opened it. It was like Google just notified me. It was like we couldn't verify the sender if it came from your account.
Yeah.
And it turns out they're actually using like email forging.
Yeah.
Forging and stuff like that. So what they're doing is they're sending emails to other people from your email, and you're getting CC'd back to that email.
Okay, I got you.
And this actually avoids Gmail spam filter because it's coming from you.
Yeah, the email is coming from you.
So Google's like the updated one of the reporters saying that they're working on that, and if you receive that, just make sure you mark it as spam. It just improves their spamming filters and stuff.
Okay. Also on that same topic, I think there were tools like that for like people to forge the email headers to spam other people.
Yeah.
Sending emails that look like they're from someone, but they're really from someone else.
Because if you think about, let's say there's a lot of servers running like the SMTP on port 25, and that doesn't even require a lot of them don't require authentication. So what happened is you just log into that server, send some like using Telnet. It's not even like a mail server or something like that. Mm-hmm. And you say you put from colon, and then you put the address you want to send from.
Yeah.
And then to, and the address you want to send to. Mm-hmm. And then eventually it actually sends with that email, even though you're not the owner of that email.
I know that there are some tools like for spamming, sending a text message, spoofing a text message number, or spoofing a cell phone number, but I've never heard of it actually impacting emails like Gmail, where you can send an email. Like imagine someone sending an email from the CEO of Google to some other employees or someone in the company. That would be a scary way of it happening.
Yeah, it turned out they found if they actually send it from you to you, it still works.
I don't know why someone would send someone an email from themselves.
No, because the thing is, for Google not to get those as spam messages, that's the only way to do it, because they have to include you as your as a sender. So if I think in some of their algorithms, if it's coming from you, it never spams it.
Okay.
So
explain it to me. So I'm a spammer.
Yes.
Let's for example take I'm a spammer.
Let's say you want to spam me.
Okay. But if I'm a spammer, I want to spam like 100,000 people at one time, or 1,000 people at one time. Yeah. How would that work? Does it have to send an individual email from this email to that email, or how would that scenario work?
Basically, they send email from they write an automation script or something where they send emails from each other email to themselves as well as some others while you're CC'd on that. And basically, the script runs through all the email addresses that were on the target. So you don't send emails from these emails to each other. You make sure that you're sending each email to itself, basically. And this bypasses Gmail spam filter. So, but obviously, since that's happening, Google's gonna be quick on that and just block those.
Now that we've identified the problem, if Gmail wanted to stop this, what would be one way or some ways that they would be able to do
they'll
that?
slightly tweak their algorithm for it to work. For example, they might remove that condition where, hey, if it's coming from you, directly report it as spam. It's like I saw they notified me that they couldn't verify that I sent that email. I was like, if it hits that condition, then let the spam filter check the contents of that subject, and if it was part of the spam, just throw it to the spam folder. That's all what you need to do, because that email actually tricked me into thinking something and wanting to like open links and stuff. So that definitely leads to other
viruses.
But I just want to let you know, your email did not get compromised at all. Like there's no attempts to someone bypassing or logging into your email client. You might think that at first. I was thinking at first, I was like, hey, I never sent it, but then I was like, oh, okay, it's probably email forging, and that's what happened. But they couldn't log into my account.
Yeah, because one of my friends, Robert, who received one of these emails, he got an email from himself and to all his contacts.
Yeah.
So he's like, I have second factor authentication turned on. I have a strong password. Yeah. Like no one can access the email but me. Check the IPs that last accessed the email address. So they were all his IPs. So, but how would they get someone's contacts? This isn't the problem we're here, but like this is a different scenario.
Yeah, the thing is, those information might have leaked from somewhere else.
Okay.
And Facebook. Oh.
Let's not get into that.
Let's not get into
Mark Zuckerberg testified. I guess you all saw him. You all know about the Facebook issue that happened. He had to testify in front of the committee.
They get all that information from some leaked data out there, and they already know some of the people you email or
it's probably one of these third-party apps that you also use on your phone. Like they could also have been the
what I always recommend everyone, make sure you have second-factor authentication enabled on your Gmail. Your Gmail is your recovery to all other accounts, so you want to protect that mostly. So make sure you have at least second-factor authentication on that one, and make sure you're always the number that you have on there is up to date, and that's your number and no one else has that. Because in today's age, if you lose your email, you lost most of your other accounts. A lot of hacks happen where people get social engineered into giving out some information, and some of them are the credentials for their email. And once you get, like for example, an email of your, and that email is a backup method for any other account, let's say your bank, like your bank account or your Facebook account, or then whoever wants to reset that password can reset it to link through the email, and then they can reset the link on the email, and then they got access to all your account.
Basically what we're saying is that the email with all your the email that you used to sign up for other applications or products or services, just make sure that that's a secured email, because you don't want anyone getting a hold of it, because once they get a hold of it, they get a hold of all your other accounts basically.
Exactly.
And on that same issue, what do you think people should do about the apps that use your Facebook to log in, like use Facebook to log into these apps? You've told me that you've gone through and disabled and removed many of those apps.
I've seen ones that I was like, hey, it's been such a long time that I used it when I was a kid, and I was like, oh wow, I don't even use those. Why am I exposing all my data? And I looked at the permissions that they have access to, and it's just crazy. I was like, oh, why would they need all this information? So I just removed all these apps and made sure that I only kept the apps that are basically that I'm using on almost a daily basis. If some apps don't need special access to certain information, you can also opt out from that. So Facebook added those permissions where each app can request access, but you can modify what kind of access they get. And it's up to the developer or whatever app is actually trying to use that data to have those conditions. If the user didn't give that data, do not use it, and stuff like that.
It's like sort of this like a shaver app that one time I was going to scare you from the behind. One of the things, the notifications that popped up as soon as I installed the app was like, access your contacts. I'm like, why is an app that's just going to simulate, like vibrate the phone and bring up a shaving noise going to ask me for access to my contacts?
Can I ask you a question?
What?
Is it free?
Yeah, it's free.
So how do they make money?
All
right, so
they need my contacts to spam and
of course,
to bring in more business.
Like never accept permissions that you don't expect the app to get.
It's like an app sometimes that doesn't have any recording features or any camera features, or doesn't have to do with your contacts. Like just starts asking for permissions. I mean, it's a good thing for in the time being that it actually asks you for permission. I mean, I think Apple does that and Android does that too. When my Samsung.
Like I'm glad that Android added that. It was like 6.0 or 7.0.
I'm not sure exactly.
But they definitely added, because you need to request. So Android had permission models since the beginning, but the problem is you accept them when you install the app. And when you install the app, you don't really look at anything, right? So converting that into like opt-in features where the user have to select it when you want to use the feature. That is a more better approach for that. So like if you don't want apps to receive push notifications, just don't allow that. You can do that. The app will function as pretty well, except if it's a messaging app. So
messaging app. You have to give access to
exactly. If you decline access to that, then you won't get any of your friends' messages, right? Until you open the app. But for example, there are certain things like, Facebook Messenger, and it was like, hey, it records audio. I was laughing at everyone saying, it was like, hey, they're recording audio in the background for ads. They're not usually doing that. It will kill the battery life, which actually their Messenger just kills the battery life on the phones as well. But the idea that when you record videos, you record audio as well.
Of course.
So you have to get the permission that you're accepting for the audio is for recording the video. Like to include audio within the video, or when you're sending your friends like a voice recording, that permission allows you to send those voice recordings.
Yeah.
But again, I think the problem happened because at one point, permissions were provided before, like during installation time, not as a request. But right now, as things are moving forward, if you install it on the later Android systems, for example,
come up as soon as you want to use the feature.
when you use, hey, do you want to give access to record audio and videos?
That's a much better proactive way of doing it.
Yeah, and Apple started that. They were right from the beginning on that, and I was saying the whole time, why don't Android use the same features? You don't want to worry about them during install time.
Speaking of Apple is replacing a lot of the batteries on the 13-inch MacBook Pros.
The non-touch bar ones.
Non-touch bar ones. I think they have a problem with the batteries.
What years?
It's affecting MacBooks manufactured between October 2016 and October 2017. It seems like they have a faulty component which causes the battery to expand. So that's definitely not a good thing.
Yeah, they're in the cheaper models, the non-touch bar ones as well.
And Apple has also opened. They've sent users to a website, their website, where they can enter their computer serial number in to check if their MacBook Pro is one of the affected models that needs to have their battery replaced. At least they're doing that before we heard anything in the news about a MacBook Pro battery burning or.
Yeah, with the lithium batteries, technically you have a like if you bend the laptop or hit it or bend the battery in one time, like if you short anything within that battery, it's just gonna burn. Yeah. And the first step is just gonna expand first. Yeah. So if you see any expansion, just make sure you go ASAP.
I'm glad they caught this fast, because even though right now it's not making news headlines, had one of these MacBook Pro batteries expanded to a level where it caught on fire, this would have definitely been a big issue. Yeah. Where this would have been the Galaxy Note 7 all over again right here.
No MacBooks and planes.
Then the Apple camp would be the Apple people and the Samsung people would be on the same levels in terms of products combusting.
The problem is you have to have very good control of what goes into the battery. You have to do quality control. And
I mean, Apple's been pretty good about it, I think, because we haven't had any problems.
Actually, there are
with phones.
iPhone 4s that I heard that actually blew up next to people's faces while they were sleeping.
Seriously?
It happens. I hear about that. Actually, if I tell you the ratio, you might get scared. But I read somewhere that the ratio is... You're gonna like a 1 in a million or something like that.
Was it the original battery or a replaced battery?
No, the original batteries.
Oh wow.
Yeah. No, a lithium battery can happen with anyone, but the problem that Samsung actually went with is because they tried to make it very slim, that any kind of bend, if you like sit on the phone or something like that, it was causing the phone to like short. Yeah. And when that happens, eventually it's gonna catch fire and it's gonna burn.
Yeah, we don't want that in a MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
Oh, you can also contact Apple, it says here, for a refund on your MacBook Pro. It also gives you the option to mail in your MacBook Pro. I wonder how many people use the mail-in option.
Even if that's old?
Well, this users who have already replaced their battery can contact the company to see about getting a refund. I guess it's talking about the battery replacement. I don't think Apple's going to give refunds on the laptops.
Oh, wow. I was like... I can just refund him for the full amount and buy the year's model.
Yeah, seriously. All October 2016, 2017, people will be flocking to the stores to upgrade their MacBooks.
Actually, Google did that to one of my coworkers.
What happened?
He, his phone had that battery issue. Yeah. Like the Nexus 6P. Yeah. So Google offered to replace it with the current year's Pixel phone.
That's really good customer service right there.
So he got a free upgrade. and what happened? Free upgrade. And he was like, I was like, man, I didn't want that. I was like, why didn't you want that? You just got a free upgrade. I was like, because I wanted to jump to Pixel 2, which is coming in the next couple of months. Now I don't have an excuse to do that. And he's still using the older phone.
When is the Pixel 2 coming out?
No, Pixel 2 is ready. Pixel 3, but later this year.
June, July.
Yeah, one of our previous episodes, I'm talking about the notch and stuff like that.
They're adding a notch to it?
I'm worried that they are, because they added that as part of Android P. And if they added that as part of Android P, they might have added support.
It's funny how all the people who used to criticize Apple for the notch are now embracing the notch, because even Android's embraced the notch. I guess it's...
The first phone that actually had that was the Essential phone. They had the notch, but they didn't have the full display. Like they still had a black bar on the bottom, which didn't look that good.
I mean, honestly, I don't understand why they have to put a notch. Like, why just not make a thinner bezel, fit the camera, and all the sensors you need to fit on the phone?
That's what I'm hoping.
Without having a notch.
You know, the Samsung did that, right? But I guess people.
Samsung S9, I was impressed by that thing.
Yeah.
Like, the bezel's really slim. Like, that does not bother me at all.
Yeah.
And it's just better than having a notch in the middle of the screen.
Yeah. I prefer that over.
I feel like the notch is the easy way out. It's like, let's just take the easy way out. Let's just add a notch. Yeah. We don't want to think about how to cram all this stuff in phones.
Now, I don't know yet what Pixel's gonna Google's gonna do with the next Pixel, but they're probably providing that solution as well because they know manufacturers are going to go with that route, like especially with the Essential phone, and they don't want everyone to implement their own logic on how to handle
the notch,
right? So they might be adding it into the system because they know manufacturers are going to copy Apple on that, and they were like, hey, let's unify it because we don't want our app developer to worry about supporting all these different notches. So that's probably their take into that. Whether they're going to put it into their new phone, I'm still hoping they won't.
Yeah.
I still like a slim notch like the S9 than...
Yeah.
Or a slim
I agree with you. I'd rather take a slim bezel over a notch any time of the day.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't understand, like, why don't manufacturers sit down with their customers and get their ideas? Like, do they not talk to people about this stuff?
You know...
Is what I don't understand.
You know, there's a Chinese company that brought back the slider. But this time it's for the camera. you just slide the screen downwards a bit, and then here's the camera. So technically, it doesn't have notch. It doesn't have anything. It's just a full screen.
A slide-out camera.
You just slide the camera to show up.
Man, who wants a slide-out camera these days, man?
Mechanical
I just
parts.
want one solid piece that can do it all.
I wonder how that phone is going to handle the drop test.
Oh, that phone. The slider's the first thing that's going to break on it.
Exactly. So...
moving parts equals trouble and repair costs.
You know the old Nokia phones and
Dude, those things were literally as durable as a brick.
I know. I actually dropped one of my phones from the second floor.
Imagine this: if had the phones that we have now not been so fragile, how many YouTube videos would you not have seen about drop test?
Yeah, I know.
1,000-foot drop test, 10-foot drop test, pocket drop test, chest drop test. Those videos wouldn't exist on YouTube.
Yeah, I got lucky. I had the glass screen protector.
Yeah.
And I dropped my phone right on the screen.
What happened to it?
The whole screen protector, basically, it was all shattered.
Is your phone okay?
My phone didn't get a beating or anything,
that's
so
good.
I did protect it. So now, the problem with my glass protector, because I have the Pixel 2, so it has curved edges. So it never fits that perfectly fine. There's always either the rainbow or bubbles depending on which glass I'm getting. So I decided to give up and I got the IQ Shield. It's like the film. So it feels still good, but it doesn't give the level of protection that you usually give.
Feels like glass.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty good screen protector.
Yeah. And see, but it doesn't give the protection of the glass where it falls. It actually protects the phone from shattering.
That's good.
But it does feel it doesn't have any bubbles. It doesn't I think the IQ Shield is one of the best ones I've tried. So
nice, very nice. All right, let's take a quick break.
Sure. So Slama, how was your coffee break?
Coffee break was excellent, Rawad. Got some caffeine in me, and we're ready to go right now. All right, so right now we're gonna talk about how Florida police officers tried to unlock a dead man's phone with his finger after he died.
Well, weren't Apple advertising that Touch ID just only works on living people?
Well, they did. I don't think... Did Apple ever advertise that?
I remember they're talking about...
I never saw that in their advertising material or one of their...
I remember when they were talking about Touch ID, it was like, hey, this won't work on duplicates of fingerprints because it needs actual live cells and stuff. So.
Well, what I was reading online was that there's a capacitive sensor, the shiny thing that's around the home button, that needs a little current of electricity which the body provides to know that someone's pressing their finger against it. I mean, you have more experience about this, so how does the Touch ID, how does it work on these phones?
So it really depends on what kind of fingerprint sensor you're using. But some fingerprint sensors that I played around with were... they do is they shoot radio wave signals on, similar to how the radars work, like when they're detecting aircraft and stuff like that in the air. So what they do is they shoot they shoot the signals and go back, and what that does, it creates a 3D model of your fingerprint, and so based on how deep that signal goes, they know exactly the curvatures, because if you know the texture from your fingerprints, some parts are higher than other parts. So with those kind of sensors, and because our controllers now are very fast, they can detect the distance and the time very, very accurately, and in that case they can map your finger.
And they say that as soon as the body dies, the radio waves won't be able to read the living tissue that's underneath the fingerprint. So that goes back to what you're saying, that not unless someone has like recently died, like I don't know how recent, maybe like 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, if you try to unlock it, it might unlock, but I think after that a dead man's finger probably won't be enough to unlock it.
Because if you don't have any living tissues, what is the radio wave going to refract? So, and
also they say that there's a capacitive sensor that needs a little bit of electricity, so like molding your finger won't work. Like I've seen some people on YouTube, maybe they faked it or not, but they actually like put on a scotch tape a fingerprint and then try to unlock it, and it unlocked. Maybe that's probably just done for views after reading this article.
So it really depends on which fingerprint sensor you're talking about, but
well, they've utilized this. They've used this fingerprint sensor since the iPhone 5s.
Yeah, so the iPhone 5s does have those sensors where it uses radar. There's a lot of other sensors that don't do that. They use light, and in that case, you can easily mimic that. Like for example, a lot of the Windows, desktops where that thing lights up under you. It's not like the phone's ones. Those use light to actually detect refraction rates, and then based on that, it maps your so that works on anything, right? But when you're using RF, it actually has to connect to living cells, because those are the ones that are going to refract that radio, like the radio.
So when you say refract, it's the signal bounces off the tissue.
So what happens is some signals would be refracted, some signal would be reflected. What you actually look at is the reflection, because it has to bounce back to you, right? So if basically there's a difference between when you're dead or when you're alive, and in terms of what gets reflected, what gets refracted. So they use that to detect the difference, right? And based on that difference, they know if you're like you saved it, right? So
it's good to know that our iPhones are secure. I mean, I don't see anyone trying to unlock someone's phone. Dude, not unless you're the president. Who's gonna wanna?
Why do you think this doesn't have any light coming out of it?
Because it uses radio waves. Now I get it.
Exactly.
I mean, honestly, before researching this topic to talk about it on the show, I never knew that it was using radio waves. I just thought it's taking an impression of the finger on a sensor. I never it's not something I think about on daily
there
basis.
Are different ways of doing that, but I think the way, for example, Apple introduced it in Touch ID is good, because it actually makes a difference between someone trying to create a mold and unlocking your phone versus you have to be live on that. So
it's good to know that someone needs my actual finger so they won't cut it off to unlock my phone. They need me alive. So if you're someone who's thinking about taking someone's finger to unlock their phone for any reasons, just make sure you keep them alive. So his tissue stay alive, and the signal refracts off the sensor into the sensor, so you can unlock their phone. That's something we didn't know today. You find out something new every day. We're not encouraging anyone to go out and do something stupid like that. We're just being sarcastic here, just for those of you who don't catch our sarcasm.
That's actually pretty cool knowing that.
All right, so now we're going to be moving on to what are they going to call Android P? What do you think Android's going to call? What's the P stand for? We've touched on this before. We're going to touch on it again.
I think Google is teasing us. Because they released an ad or something that has all popsicles. So I don't know if they're going to call it popsicles or not.
I think it's going to be called Popsicle.
When they were announcing like new Android P features and stuff like that.
Pop-Tart. Popsicle, pie.
But the idea of the picture, I don't know if they're teasing that, but it seems like it might be popsicles.
Pecan.
But with Android P, there's like leaks on those photos. That
peanut butter and jelly.
You know what?
Pringles.
That's not a sweet. It's supposed to be a dessert.
All right, I was just getting a little carried away with that.
So they might be copying the gesture, the way how the home button looks on iPhone 10.
What do you mean by that?
Like I've seen some of the, like, you know, the leaks for Android P.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, Google was advertising a product and they used Android P, and when they were actually taking the screenshots, so it looked like the home button moved from a circle to be like a dash,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of looks like a smaller, like a shorter version of the iPhone 10's home button.
Mm-hmm.
But it might be like a way for reducing the size of the actual bottom on-screen touch button.
That's good. So what are you going to do for the back button and the home button?
Probably make it shorter as well somehow. But you know,
Because
the back button, they're changing. So you know how sometimes, or most of the times, you lock your screen to portrait mode. So because let's say you're lying down, you don't want it to rotate and stuff.
Yeah.
So when you're in that mode on Android P, in that navigation bar, they're gonna give you an offer to rotate the screen if you choose to.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be an explicit button to rotate it from landscape to portrait. And I think that's useful because sometimes when you're lying down, it's like, hey, I don't want that. But if you're watching a video, you want that. So you don't want to keep unlocking and locking. So having an explicit button will definitely help with that.
Okay, that's a good thing. Android is moving forward. Okay, so here are some of the what the Android P suggested names that Android P might stand for. You've got pancake, peppermint, pie, pineapple, pistachio, pizza, popcorn, popsicle, potato, pudding, pumpkin. Honestly, if I was Google, I choose popsicle.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just seems googly to me.
Yeah, I know. With the colors and stuff like that, it matches Google.
Like I'm imagining a red, white, and blue popsicle is what I'm imagining right now. Is what they do with that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Alright, so now Amazon isn't letting users review James Comey's new book if they didn't purchase it
Through the site.
through the site. I mean, that's a good thing and a bad thing because it'll keep all the haters away from...
I thought that you always have to buy something before you can review it.
No, actually, sometimes on Amazon you can go in and rate a product even though it's not a verified purchase where they didn't verify you.
Why?
It happens sometimes.
Yeah, but like competitors can just hire some group from India just to basically like farm and give bad ratings to their competitors so they can improve.
Yeah, that's true. But Amazon has a strong system on detecting like
fake ratings,
because it looks... I think Amazon is way smart when it comes to these things. I think they know whose accounts are active buying stuff versus someone who just signs up for an account to leave one review or a couple of reviews when they haven't purchased anything.
That makes sense.
But I mean, some people will definitely take advantage of the system, but instead of just doing this to James Comey's book, I think they should have a broader system that just encompasses all the products.
Because honestly, it makes sense. Like on the App Store and Play Store, like don't you have to download the app before you can rate it? So I was thinking the same way. Like it doesn't make sense if you didn't buy it. But what if you actually read it from somewhere else? And you
that's what I was about saying. Like if someone didn't buy the book off of Amazon, they bought it, let's say, at Barnes & Noble, and then they wanted to review it on Amazon. I mean, they should be able to. I don't know why they're just doing it for this book. Maybe because of the current political state that we're in. A lot of people might have hate for the James Comey book, so they're taking some proactive measures to reduce bad reviews because, you know, we have some crazy people out there who would definitely want to keep this... because bad reviews equals bad sales. Like there's no detaching them apart. If someone sees a book with 5 stars or 4.5 stars and then sees the same book for 3 stars, 2 stars, they're gonna be probably what's the word I'm looking for? They're gonna be they're not gonna purchase the book.
Yeah.
Same thing with the movies, man. The thing that pisses me off is Rotten Tomatoes. Like, I swear to God, every time... I know we're going off topic here, but I just want to talk about this. Yeah. Like, Rotten Tomatoes, like, you have some great movies that I've watched. Before I've just looked at Rotten Tomatoes, like 23%, and you go watch the movie, and it's, like, amazing. So I don't take that into consideration at all. When I see a Rotten Tomato review rating, I just watch the movie regardless. I actually look
at all the ratings because I don't just look at one because usually Rotten Tomatoes is a lot more harsher than everyone else.
It's not harsh. It's like, damn right it's biased.
It's called Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes is Rotten Tomatoes.
So the idea was Like I look like sometimes I see like for example on whether it's Google Play movie ratings or for example IMDb and stuff like that, they're way up on like 7, and then I find it 20% on Rotten Tomatoes. So like that doesn't make sense. So I actually go and watch the movie and it's pretty good as well. So
you have all these wannabe movie producers leaving these critical analysis of, or what they call an analysis of a movie, and you go watch the finished product and you're like, what, this movie got a 23%? I actually enjoyed it up to 95%. What's up with that?
I was actually going like reading some of the comments on like why they're rating them bad. Sometimes like with the sequels, they expect a lot. They expect it to be better than the one the previous one. Like for example, when we watched Pacific Rim 2.
Pacific Rim 2, yeah.
Like the ratings, the bad ratings that it got was like, hey, it wasn't as good as the first one. The story didn't have a story and all this kind of. As moviegoers, we just look at the action and stuff like that. We don't really care about like we do care about the story, but we don't care about the details on how they approach the story.
Yeah, see on the tomato meter, Pacific Rim got a 43%, and now they've added an audience score which says a 47%. User ratings based on 30,000 ratings. Most of them average rating is 3.1 out of 5.
Yeah.
I honestly enjoyed that.
Yeah, I enjoyed that
much. Like,
well.
I don't know why it got such a bad rating. And it's not just this movie. Like, we're not talking about one movie. I'm talking about looking at movies like, let's say 5 or 6 times, going to the movie theaters, checking the Rotten Tomatoes review, because that's like what usually pops up first. Yeah. And then going to the theater and actually being shocked by how off this rating is. And it's not just me. Don't you agree that the same thing's happening to you?
I think those moviegoers, the real moviegoers, basically, they actually they know how to criticize like certain movies based on different criteria, right? So regular moviegoers don't look at that. They just go to enjoy the movie, to have fun. Yeah. But a lot of people go there to live it. Yeah. Or like a lot of those critics, right? Yeah. So those people are the ones that are actually rating it. Like regular people like me and you never go and contribute to that side. Yeah. So that's why even the audience score is really actual critics, like, the movie clubs and like people in the movie clubs who actually rate those kind of movies.
Yeah, because it says here that the reviews counted on Pacific Rim that gave it the 43% is based on 196 reviews. So that's a very small demographic that they're trying to cram.
Can you check Pacific Rim 1?
Let's see. Pacific Rim 1. Okay, 2013. Pacific Rim 1. Tomato meter not available.
But look at the audience score, 91%.
Based on 155 ratings. Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, see, like, you jump from... Because they expected it to be as good as the first one. Honestly, I like the first one a lot because it introduces us to the story. Yeah. And the second one's story is actually... It is pretty nice, but it's not
actually, the first one got a 71%. That should have had, like, at least an 85% rating. Yeah. At least. 77% of people liked it.
Now, if you check it on IMDb, you get higher ratings.
I mean, even in Rotten Tomatoes itself, there's a discrepancy. Like, their ratings is 71 population based on 193,000 people's ratings. It got a 77%.
So the ones probably on the left side where it shows a tomato meter is probably like professional critics. Yeah. Versus like amateur critics, like people like students in the movie clubs and stuff like that.
Just all we're trying to convey to you guys and tell you guys is that before you judge a movie based on their Rotten Tomato score, whatever score you see online, just watch the trailer. If you like the trailer, you'll probably like the movie, although the trailers are like sometimes super hyped up or stuff like that. But I'm sure if it's a movie that you've watched, like a series of movies, if you watched the first one and liked it, just watch the second one. I mean, you're not going to be let down by it. Maybe a little. I'm not going to say that for every movies, but just watch it. Just get the experience. Like, don't be
Didn't Hollywood dissuaded by this. Rotten Tomatoes because it was actually hurting their business as well?
I haven't heard about you. You've told me one time when I've
read an article saying that Hollywood is thinking about suing through Rotten Tomatoes because it's not doing as well because of all people not watching movies based on what the scores they see on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah. The other side of the argument was saying that, hey, make better movies. I was like, some of the movies are pretty good. Why are you actually causing people not to go just because of
What I'm trying to say here, if the movie's bad, say it's bad. There will be a general consensus about bad. Your friends will say that it's bad. Your friends' will say it's bad. But when we go watch it, you're my friend. You say it's good. Other friends say it's good. Like, you expect the rating to be a little higher. I mean, I know this is skewed. We're basing the judgment based on our feelings towards the movie, but honestly, like, the scores are pretty low. But now that we know that, shouldn't we be factoring that into our judgment? So is it really hurting Hollywood since we know the scores are bad?
Actually, I had a friend that thought the lower the tomato rating, the better the movie.
Oh my god!
Because she was liking the movies that are actually the lowest versus the ones that have higher ratings.
Yeah,
so
that's
she was
great.
like,
That's
no,
funny.
Rotten Tomato has if it's lower, like close to 0, that means it's better.
That's super funny.
Because I was like, I know, she told me she never saw like something over like 30-40%.
Yeah,
and they were like, they're all good movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I think the thing is, we look at a 70 out of 100. So where did those 30 points
That's a
go?
C, yeah.
So when you look at this and you give it a C, so what are they reserving the 80 to 90 to 100
I'm wondering
for?
how they're actually setting that number. Is it based on like certain categories and stuff like that? And
I think people are rating it out of 5. It's based, for Pacific Rim, average rating is 6.6 out of 10 for critics. And then for audience score, the audience rating, it's saying 3.9 out of 5. So it's getting, from critics, it's getting a 6.6 out of 10.
But what is the like rating criteria? Is it like a general rating criteria, or are you rated by different categories?
I'm actually not sure because I've never tried it, but let's see how.
What if you press on the number?
Pressed on the number.
Oh, it's just regular rating.
Just
so look at the
rating.
critics' rating. I'm wondering if they
listen to this moviegoer that left this review. Its visual achievements, notwithstanding Pacific Rim's greatest breakthrough, maybe that it's the first Hollywood blockbuster to sport a title less descriptive of its plot than if its intended market. Like, people are just writing these reviews to seem.
And that guy is top critic.
Like, it's interesting. A ridiculously entertaining and often just plain ridiculous monster robot movie that plays like that Rock'em Sock'em Robots game from the 1960s.
Seriously, those are getting...
The whole thing is so silly. The heroes are wooden. The concept is amoebic. Even the title is a joke. Like, I don't know. I don't know where this hate's coming from.
How do you get 1 out of 5 on that movie?
I don't know, man.
You know,
It's
people have
definitely not a
opinion.
1 out of 5.
Just make sure that ratings don't match in certain things, like, because this is a lot. Like, you read the ratings. Look how this guy rated the ratings. Very like a short 1-sentence statements, and he gave a 1 out of 5, and he judged the title as well.
I mean, I know different folks, different strokes. Like, everyone approaches something differently because of their past experiences, maybe with movies or in life or whatever. But like, giving a movie 1 out of 10 when it doesn't deserve it, in my opinion. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't add up. I don't know how to describe my frustration with this system.
You know, I think they should categorize it, because I think a generic 1 hour, like, you know, for example, for apps, that's where I'm more experienced in. You're more expecting people to rate the app if they're having problems with the app.
Yeah.
Versus rating it because they love it that much.
Yeah. Same thing with me. Like, I generally don't leave negative reviews, but I do, like, sometimes complain if something's not working. But I don't leave negative reviews. But a lot of people, like, I mean, if something doesn't work out, they leave a negative review. And when things do work out, they don't even leave a positive review.
Like, people should learn what the meaning of 1 out of 5 is versus 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
There's some feature, like, for example, I've read a lot of reviews on certain apps on the App Store that I pretty like.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. And they're getting ones, and I was like, why are these people getting ones? I was like, oh, because it doesn't have one feature. I was like, okay,
yeah, they
just
disregarded
that.
the 100 other things.
Yeah, like, it's perfect in everything, except they don't have that feature. You give it a 1 out of 5. Why? Do you think that a 1 out of 5 will brings the developers or like the marketing people's, they would look at that?
No.
They think...
Most likely.
Yeah,
not.
they think it was like, hey, I'm frustrated because I don't have that. But I think there should be an explanation for each rating. Like, one should actually be 1, and it's so that it was like 1, nothing works.
I mean, if they leave a 1, they should have, like, the user explain what the problem. Like, they should have an option that takes them. If you left a 1 star, did you leave a 1 star with something wrong with the app? And then explain to them what a 1 rating means.
Like, I understand some people rate 1 because they can't even log into the app, which I don't judge these people. And if they fix it, we always like as developers, I've seen apps, I've seen like companies that have that, and like when I rate a 1 out of 5 because it doesn't work, that's my rating. If an app does not work at all, I cannot use any of the features, I usually rate it at 1 out of 5.
Not works, and then one little thing doesn't work, and then you.
But then when they notify me, they say, hey, they fixed it. I update my rating then.
Yeah.
Saying based on what ratings I'm seeing in the app. Sometimes a 1 can jump to a 5, a 1 can jump to a 3, depending on what the feature is. But I've noticed a lot of people usually rate if something is not working, and then when it works, they rate the 5 stars. So if you're an app developer, make sure your app is tested a lot. Like I've worked with certain companies that just released apps without even testing them, and it turned out that it worked on some phones, on other phones it didn't work. Like imagine like one app where when they took photos, on certain apps the photo was actually getting rotated by 90 degrees, and it turns out that depending on like the phone manufacturers, the camera sensor was rotated 90 degrees. So depending on how they mounted the camera, like each manufacturer mounted different cameras, right? So you're supposed to, for example, in that instance, you're supposed to look at the orientation and factor that in when you're doing the rotation.
I think the flaws with Apple, I think Apple should have like give it more stars in more than one category. Let's say usefulness or helpfulness, give it 5 stars. Usability, searchability, like feature wise, if you have more than one rating, people are more likely going to rate it based on what they think about the app, as opposed to just one flat rating that gives them a...
Actually, I have a rating system that I don't even want to mention on the air right now.
You have a rating system in...
I have an idea of a rating system that actually will improve accuracy of ratings, and it will be very personalized. So,
but I mean, how much time do people have to leave a rating?
Can I ask
you want something that can be done in like 20 seconds?
But I want to ask you this one. No, the rating is going to be the same. But the way you see the rating, you might see a rating different than what I see the rating for the same exact app or same exact movie or same exact everything. I'm actually, I have it on the side. I'm actually working on it like during my part time because I'm already working part time on that.
Yeah.
I think the way I'm approaching
personalized
the rating
ratings
system, the way I personalize, of course there's personalized rating, Netflix has them, but the way I'm personalizing them is, imagine having the knowledge graph on the user, and I don't want to say it on the air. After I patent it, release it, and then I'll talk about it.
All right, so second break is over. Let's finish this podcast strong. Okay. Now what we're going to be talking about is the new Android chat that Google is trying to push forward in place of SMS entirely.
Yeah, so Google have attempted a lot of approaches on building their own messaging chat. They release Hangouts, they release Google Voice.
Like I told you, they have too many of them.
Yeah. And they
should consolidate it all into one powerful messaging app. Don't you agree?
I do agree, but they have a business... reason why they're not doing that is they don't want to lose the carrier's trust. Carriers still want to sell the SMS package. Carriers still wants to sell the voice package. Think about it. You don't even need voice and text anymore.
Yeah.
If you get a data only line, that's perfect enough for you. You can create a Google Voice number. You're golden. You can use that for SMS. You can use that for phone calls.
Yeah.
And basically you can use any other chatting app like iMessage or WhatsApp or whatever to communicate, right? You don't really need those. And the thing is, knowing that, Google actually took that to the advantage to try to convince the carriers. They said, you know what? We're going to drop the whole team that's working on Allo, which is the latest chatting app. And they moved it to Google Chat. So Google Chat is not another app. Just to be a clarification, it's basically a protocol that happened to call it chat, which is replacing SMS in general. I know a lot of carriers around the world are already using that. I believe it's like 55 carriers all over the world is using it. T-Mobile's committed to actually support it by mid this year. AT&T have some talks about that, but currently with AT&T's progress, I don't know if AT&T users are gonna take advantage anytime soon.
I think if you introduce an app or a feature that enables you to have like let's not lie to ourselves, iMessage is pretty strong, FaceTime is pretty strong. I mean, some people, and even me included, like would buy an iPhone just because of how good iMessage works and how good FaceTime and FaceTime audio works. So investing in an app or a feature on the phone that allows people to have that experience, to be able to message other Android users, like have an ecosystem that works and functions together to bring Android users together is a step in the right direction. I mean, I've been saying this for a really long time. Google has a lot of different apps that do the same thing. If they want to have all of them combined together in one powerful app, I think that's the way to go.
So what they did is they converted actually Hangouts. They dropped kind of support. They moved Hangouts towards the business industry. That's why when they introduced Hangout Chat, Hangouts Meet, and stuff like that, and they wanted Allo to be their one app. But the problem with Allo, it didn't support SMS, and people didn't like that. They wanted, similar to how iMessage supports both SMS and iMessage, they wanted Allo to be that app. But eventually they did not do that because they didn't want to lose the carriers' trust. So instead, and I mean, lining up all these carriers and having them all follow suit is it was part of Google's
big
plan.
Endeavor.
Because guess when Google bought that company that's responsible for Jive, which is what's going to be running the chat. It was Jive in 2015, like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And they've been working on convincing carriers all over the world, and 55, including the ones here. And it's part of the new standards. Like they already defined the standard. It's part of the like universal profile standard. So similar to how SMS is a protocol that's a standard, this became a standard. So every carrier who wants to implement that standard is going to just give their customers a lot of nice features. And imagine like people don't need apps anymore to support that. Imagine you can send this message to any app and you'll have all the features of like, GIF and anything that RCS basically supports.
And I think, but see, even Google's saying right now that, well, not Google, the article reporting on Google is saying that even if they want to have the rich communication standard applied on all phones, but then like a phone provider like Samsung might have its own spin on the app, but it might be the same thing. And if you want, you can also download. So
Google's, you can even download a third party messaging app on Android that supports that feature. It's a protocol. That's what's nice about protocol. It has specifications. You implement an app that runs that specification, you have an app. I think Samsung already committed to actually integrating the RCS standard in their messaging phone. They were messaging app on their phones, so that's a huge market. The Android messages is available for everyone, like all the Pixel phones, so that's pretty great. And already manufacturers like HTC, LG, all actually committed to actually using that. A lot of carriers, T-Mobile's committed to do that. AT&T, hopefully they'll do that, but I don't know when. That's a problem because they didn't actually give a release date. T-Mobile said mid-2018. Actually, second quarter of 2018, they'll have it ready.
I think if Google wants this to be the next iMessage, the next FaceTime, it should have it in every Android phone.
No, it has
and
that.
Doesn't allow people to modify it.
No, it does have that. Think about it. It is like SMS. You cannot modify SMS. You can build your own apps that works with it.
Yeah.
But if your phone is going to support, and I bet all phones, and guess what? If your phone does not support it, you can download any app that supports it and works exactly the same as any other app. The look and feel might be different. You might have different themes and stuff like that.
So I want to ask you a question now. Let's say I have my iPhone. Will my iPhone 8 be able to utilize the rich communication standard?
That is...
or is that specialized piece of hardware?
So that's where the question happening, right? So this protocol is now carrier protocol, right? When Google bought it, I thought this is the next big thing. I knew that Google's actually going that way. Yeah. Because it just makes sense. Hey, why do people have to download the same app that I'm running for them to communicate? Why, like, everyone likes their own thing. It's a lot of like, I like Allo because of like all AI in there and stuff. Some people like WhatsApp more, but like, those are like different like people have different opinion. But if let's say all these apps work in one.
Let me interrupt you for a second now. Like right now, even me as a human being, let's say I wanted to pick a job to work on. In anything, it doesn't apply just to this situation. If I have 10 different options, which Google is now offering you many different options that sort of do the same thing, I wouldn't know what to choose. But if Google were to standardize its messaging app, have one app that can do 90%, 80% of all the things that its other apps have, I think it would be better.
Guess what? The idea is they're not only standardizing an app, they're standardizing a communication protocol for carriers all over the world.
That's really good. I admire Google for doing that.
So they're giving all that option. I don't know how they sold them. They actually told carriers, hey, we're willing to drop support on Allo, and they shut down all the team to that. And the head of Nest, they actually assigned them that priority because guess what? Every time they put that guy somewhere, he makes it succeed. So, not Nest, part of Google Photos.
Okay.
That guy was great. Google Photos is one of the most popular apps for images and stuff like that today. He moved that guy to head as well, that Google Chat department as well. So imagine now carriers as part of their protocol, similar to SMS. Every phone manufacturer supports SMS because it's a carrier offered support.
So you didn't answer my question. Does it need extra hardware or tweaking with the phone? Nothing.
No. But my problem is Apple willing to support that from the beginning?
That's what I was about to say. Okay, Android, Google does its thing, supports the rich communication standard. How would Apple respond to that?
Yeah. So Apple might be pressured by carriers to support it, because if all carriers now support it, which I don't know Verizon yet, but I've looked at Sprint already does that, already supports it. They always work with Google first on, similar to how they work with Google Voice on with them. T-Mobile is committed second quarter 2018. That's soon. Yeah, I can't wait until I get my update here. And AT&T said they're working on it, but they don't have a release date. Okay. They didn't announce a release date, but they're working on. Guess what? AT&T in Mexico already supports it.
Wow, that's crazy.
So look at that. Just something funny to talk about.
Don't make fun of the Mexican Mexican phone companies. They are actually very powerful.
But AT&T in Mexico supports it. And not in the US, and we don't even have an estimated timeline in the US. Come on, man! We need that. It's one of the top carriers. Imagine if you get AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint, and Verizon on that. Yeah. You just cover the whole US. You standardize the protocol. It's definitely gonna push Apple to support it. And imagine if Apple is not gonna get rid of iMessage.
They're never gonna get rid of it, because I'm telling you, people buy iPhones
for iMessage
and FaceTime.
Exactly. But now imagine if they built the app where they use iMessage from iPhone to iPhone like usual. Yeah. But if they're using the Apple to Android, they'll still seem that they're talking as if they're talking iMessage. Yeah. Because if they follow that protocol, then the SMS and iMessage would look exactly the same for both platforms. So they also unify the experience on all platforms. So they didn't have to implement iMessage on Android. They get that as a backup. And if that didn't work, let's say that phone that you're trying to target does not have RCS, fall back to SMS. So imagine having all that. It will be crazy.
So what are some of the features that come with rich communication standard?
Pretty standard. You can send bigger images. You can actually get read receipts and stuff like that. Everything that you see in iMessage, what offers and what iMessage offers, what WhatsApp offers. Imagine you put all these apps to one, and you have that now. So imagine, what I like is the read receipts. Obviously, that's one of the things that I like. I want to see whether the other thing is sending context, something like multimedia messages, unlimited, when you're sending out a big image,
file transfers,
and stuff like that. Exactly, you don't need that. And come on, how bad is MMS with group chats?
Very bad.
Between if you're all within one carrier, that's fine. But if you have groups that have different carriers, I've seen messages on some carriers received way after other messages that are received from other carriers. So it's a huge mess.
You'd be able to also exchange locations.
Exactly. So
audio messaging.
Exactly.
All the stuff that's lacking in the current SMS. So basically, that would render a lot of the third-party messaging apps almost useless.
So there's one issue with that, Joe. Because it's carrier supported, the whole data is only encrypted from your device to the carrier, and then another channel of encryption between the carrier and the other phone.
And it has to be this way.
Guess why?
Why?
Because they still want to be able to read messages somehow.
Oh my God.
Right? So
of course, they have to be able to.
Well,
look
the
at
thing
our
is,
chats.
I think they need to do that because government agencies aren't going to be happy if you don't.
Yeah.
So it's not Google's fault.
It's a trade-off.
It's just the carriers. The carriers have to abide with government agencies. In different countries, in Europe, it might be more even stricter. Like some in Europe, they're fighting against end-to-end encryption apps like WhatsApp and Signal and all these kind of. They want to stop them because it's for for security reasons. Like I know it's always a fight between security versus privacy. You might want to need both, but in certain countries where you don't have security, you might want to actually give up some of your privacy to ask security. Yeah. So it is a balance between the two.
You can ask 10 different people what would they value, security or privacy. You'll get 5 here, 5 there.
Yeah, it depends on what you live. It depends on, like, for example, if you were comfortable, you never had issues.
I'm honestly a proponent of security.
Yeah.
Like privacy, I mean. Security in the privacy sense. I don't want anyone to be able to.
Let's say, for example, if you're someone that lived in areas where there was a lot of bombing, there was a lot of different things. So you would probably was like, hey, why don't we have like an intelligent agency that tracks everyone and then stops these crimes from happening before they happen?
Let me tell you one thing. The same agencies that will use it to stop bad things from happening will also use it for other purposes that they deem necessary or that they deem.
I know.
And people can disagree about that. And
I understand that. But guess what? There's not a single person getting behind a mic trying to hear everything. Like a lot of the conversation that what everyone hears is based on tagged words and stuff like that. So they tag conversations based on what you're saying in a conversation. Is like, and that's the only way for them to do it and to process that much information. Well, at least what we know of. Yeah. But the idea, it's not people just listening the whole time. If you're tagged, probably because you're tagging the word, they don't have the manpower
to go through everything.
Exactly. But if you're like a person of interest, that's where they might actually listen to more conversations to make sure that you're not going to do something there. But they're doing it for the national security. They're not doing it to mess with you or to create like certain problems for you if you're not a person that actually causing problems. Like they might want to find something on you if you're trying to create problems and they want to shut you up. But they won't be able to use that. Like they won't bring some innocent person and make them bad. Yeah. And try to find details on it. But the idea as well for them to tap your phone, they need like approval from a judge,
at least a warrant or something.
Yeah, warrant, exactly. So it's still safe, I know.
But you gotta keep in mind, like these warrants.
I value
the United States needs warrants, but other smaller countries. Yeah. Like things that fly by there won't fly by here.
Yeah, definitely I value privacy as well, but there has to be a balance. It can't be complete 100% privacy and it can't be 100% security. They have to find this like sweet spot between those two that maintains privacy. Maybe anonymous the data, right? Like try to see like what the contents are. It might be like filtered content or something like that. I'm not sure. They have to figure out that sweet spot. But
never mind. So I didn't know this little tidbit of information. I guess apps like WhatsApp will live longer now.
Yeah. But
I'm actually glad that there's going to be an alternative to iMessage, like a rich communication service.
But don't get me wrong, the actual messages will be encrypted from your phone to the carrier. So like people snooping around, like who are not involved in carrier or they're not government agencies, they won't be able to decrypt. Similar to your phone calls. Remember when phone calls were all plain, anyone can read them if they just have access to the towers? Yeah. Now no, it's they're encrypted as well. So. But they, like the governments, do get access to the keys, the encryption keys, so they can actually listen to those if they need to.
Okay,
so that's where stuff like iMessage, WhatsApp, and stuff like that still works, because if you care about end-to-end encryption, you might want to go. But guess what? For you guys who like Allo, unfortunately, we're not getting updates anymore. Google shut down the team. Actually, they did not shut that. They moved the team to Android Messages because they were bringing all the features that Allo has into Android Messages, and Android Messages already supports RCS, and hopefully your carrier will support it as soon as possible as well.
Well, I'm actually surprised.
Yeah, RCS now is a
40
GSM.
Carriers, 40 carriers already support RCS.
And that's February 22. In April, there's already another 15.
Wow. Yeah. How many carriers, do you have an idea of how many carriers are worldwide?
No, but the idea, the ones in Europe are catching on very fast. You know,
How are the European carriers dealing with this?
actually, the thing is, they've been using it before us. Come on.
That's crazy.
So let's see. What can I...
Let's see how many phone carriers there are worldwide.
Yeah, how many mobile operator?
Let's see. There are about
800 registered.
800?
Yeah.
800 registered carriers worldwide. So I mean, 50. That's a good chunk of carriers.
Yeah, they started doing that. But the thing is, guess what?
What?
There's a lot of small ones of those as well.
Uh-huh.
But imagine if you capture the bigger ones. Come on. When the US does it first, look at how carriers are adopting like 4G and LTE. Yeah, but you captured 4, you captured 90%.
Yeah, you captured a lot of them. And some carriers have more than others.
I want to ask you, I want to tell you, you have to make sure that you don't also count the carriers that actually share the towers with those big carriers, because those are not considered carriers. They're considered like MVNOs or something.
Yeah.
So these ones will actually, since they're using these towers,
they're already going to be switched to this.
They have to.
It's like Cricket is to AT&T. Uses AT&T towers. Metro PCS uses T-Mobile towers.
You know, when the big guys actually get it, the smaller guys won't be able to compete if they don't add it.
Boost uses Sprint towers.
Yeah. Like, there's even third world countries that already have LTE, and they got it like a year or 2 years after the US got it.
Yeah.
So I expect also these third world countries to get that.
Yeah.
When they see that it's becoming very popular in the US, and trust me, if
okay, on the carrier side, do they have to modify their equipment in any way to support this?
No, not their equipment. But they have to have the whole backend infrastructure for it.
Okay.
So, for example, and what's nice about that is Google's offering an already finished infrastructure for it.
How is that?
When they bought Jive, basically it is a full infrastructure for RCS standard.
Okay.
So what they did.
So is it software wise or hardware wise or?
Well, software wise.
Software wise.
So they have to have servers that connect all these things together, right? But so what Google did, because they know some carriers care about their own data and their own information, they don't want to use third-party hosting for it.
Yeah.
It's like you create your own server from Metal basically, instead of like hosting it at Amazon or Google Cloud, right?
Oh.
So they do actually have extensions for people who want to build that, and all the tools that are required to do that. So carriers can easily adopt those tools and build their own servers using that. But if they wish to use the Jive infrastructure that's already created for them, they have the option to do that.
Okay. That's very interesting.
So, I'm actually very excited because T-Mobile gave second quarter 2018. That's very soon, right?
Yeah.
So I want to try it on my phone, see how the apps already are supporting it. They just have to flip the switch on T-Mobile, and then perfect.
All right, let's see who's the first in the US to implement all this stuff. This should be an exciting year for Android.
I think they're already assigned. Sprint was the first one that already supports it today.
Okay, so are there apps that use this?
Android Messages supports it, but if you're a Sprint, you get it. I have a coworker that's on Sprint.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm already jealous because the thing is, you're getting it from the regular messaging app that comes with the phone. The one that you use to send SMS on, you already have that app as part of that.
Yeah.
Remember, this is carrier driven. It's not like a third party app. I still do like if Google works on, like, for example, for Android Messages at least, to end end-to-end encryption using like stuff like what iMessage does. So if you're talking to, let's say, a Pixel user who have Android Messages, use another line. You don't have to use Jive or like the RCS standard. And the reason for that is sometimes you might want to send, like, for example, like passwords end-to-end encrypted. You don't trust that you're sending it over a network so that someone can snoop it. And
can the app later on evolve where the sender and the receiver can encrypt the message, or that would...
that's what end-to-end encryption is. So actually, if there's a way in the standard to detect that the other receiving side has like the app installed, for
some
example,
sort of key that they exchange.
Okay, let me revisit that, right?
Okay.
So I don't think the standard would have that because they don't want that by design, right? But let's say you have, like, I'm running on Android Messages on my Pixel 2. If the app knows...
people on... Let me interrupt you. People on Apple know that their messages are protected end to end. if this wants to be
Their
the next big
iMessage.
thing, Google has to do something where it allows the user and the other party, the sender and the receiver, to exchange some sort of key like Telegram and WhatsApp. Can they do that?
Yeah, well, it's automated, right? So, but the idea is, you know, if for example the RCS sender can send anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So instead files.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was Google, the way I would think
Mm-hmm.
about it is, if I detect that I'm sending a message to a person that's running on Android messages,
Mm-hmm.
so the standard message, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will send it using the RCS standard, but I will send it as encrypted,
Mm-hmm.
where the keys were exchanged using a different mechanism between the apps.
Yeah.
So if I'm sending to another user that have Android message installed, I can send it end-to-end encrypted. Why? Because, hey, I'm sending through our RCS an encrypted block. We already exchanged keys based on, let's say, Diffie-Hellman's curve, or like, you know, the more actually, I would actually recommend the quantum resistant algorithm that they're using now, which is the same. It's like a curve based.
I'm totally lost here, but if you say so.
All right. But the idea is, if you use that for, like, if you have like a mechanism to exchange these keys, and if it detects, and Google can detect that, if you detect that, oh, I'm trying to type to someone that actually have Android message and already have the keys exchanged with them, then send it through RCS, through the carrier, so the carrier is happy.
Yeah.
But guess what? It's encrypted.
Yeah.
And that
I
can
mean,
be a
that
good
should be
feature.
one of the standards. I mean, even Apple, the governments don't have any problems
But
sending a request to
I just want to tell you
decrypt
something.
a message or something.
If you use iCloud to back up your phone,
Uh-huh.
the government can read all your messages, all your iMessages as well. Because guess what?
Okay, that's very
Uh,
uneasy.
Can I ask a question? When you're backing your information to iCloud,
Uh-huh.
you're backing them to Apple servers. You're backing up a copy of your messages
Yeah.
as well. So unless you specifically say don't back up your chat and messages,
Uh-huh.
then your messages are on the cloud. And the fact, you can easily prove it. Format your phone. Log in again. Do you lose all your iMessages?
No.
So how did you restore them?
They came from the cloud,
Exactly.
from
So-
some data center.
Exactly. So by default, the government, if they have a warrant, they can access that. So you're kind of protected of what didn't get synced, but everything that got synced to the cloud, it's not beyond you. So I know a lot of people talk about like their privacy and, hey, iMessages end to end. It was like, make sure if you want to support that and you want to make sure it's end to end, do not back up your chats.
All right, Rawad, thank you for coming on the show today. It was a very interesting conversation. As usual, it gets better towards the end. And thank you, the viewers and listeners, for tuning in to our podcast. If you guys are just waking up, good morning. And if you guys are going to sleep right now, good night. And thank you for tuning in.
Good night, Orange County.
Good night.